Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and this is episode 6. We're talking about Epic triggers in Salesforce. We talked about the Salesforce, what is trigger, what are the best practices of Salesforce Epic triggers in the first episode, and then we move into the different use cases of Salesforce. So up to this point, we talked about, we discussed 5 different scenarios of the Salesforce Epic triggers, and we resolved that out in the previous videos. So this video will talk about another scenario of the Salesforce Epic trigger. This is scenario 6. And the requirements for this scenario is writing a trigger on the contact object to update contact's level field to primary if the new contact's lead source is web. So for that, this is pretty simple and straightforward. For that, we need 3 things. First thing is trigger type. Second is trigger context and the object name. So the first answer we already got, that is insert. Trigger type, sorry, this is not the insert trigger. This should be the after trigger. Let me just edit that. Should not be the insert trigger. There's no trigger of type insert. So let's edit that and go again. Okay, the trigger type is before trigger and the trigger context is after insert. So trigger is going to fire right after inserting the record. Let me edit that also. This is before trigger and the object is contact object. Okay, so we got the answer. The trigger is before trigger and trigger context is after insert. So this will fire on the contact object after inserting the record in the contact object. So if we insert any records, which is newly inserted record, not the update, this is the really new records in the contact object if you are inserting. So while inserting a record, if your record's lead source is web, then that's gonna update the contact's primary. That's gonna update the contact's level field to primary. Let's go and check that in the developer edition org, what the question is asking for. So question is basically asking for this thing. So this is your contact record. And if the contact record, so if you are trying to insert the contact records and if the field label is primary, if you have set the label field primary, and if you hit save, then that's going to update the lead source to web. So let's go and write the trigger. For the writing the trigger, we already know the navigation. New, Epic trigger. This is scenario 6. I'm writing on the contact object, so I don't need to pick another object now. Hit submit. So here's the trigger. And the trigger name, you already know that is based on the syntax. Trigger object, trigger is on contact object, and our trigger is before insert. So on the same framework, we're going to write that trigger. So let me mention the trigger context. If the trigger is insert, and if the trigger is before. So it says that the trigger is before type trigger, and that should happen before insert. So what we need is, we basically need the contact records, the recently updating contact records. I'm going to create contacts object here, contact trigger.new. It will pull up all the contacts record which are recently updated or being updated, and the condition. So we have all the contact records which are recently being updated or which we are trying to insert into the contact object. So we already have those records in the con. This is a instance of the contact. Now con has all the records. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the lead source. Lead source. Lead source and going to compare with web. So if the lead source is web, then what it needs to do is it's gonna write that label. It's gonna replace the label. . with primary. So I think we made a little mistake there. Let's just go to the PPT and see what we're trying to see. Okay, we're not wrong. So label field is to primary. We have to make the label field to primary if the lead source is web. That is right. And our requirement in the page is what? If the record, the lead source is web, then it is going to update the account's contacts label into primary. So this is the requirement, and we are trying to write the trigger and handling that requirement. So now everything looks good. Let me save it. So in the error, variable does not exist. What variable does not exist? Scenario 6. Okay, let's see why it throws an error. Let's go and check the object. Our object has contact. Open the contact object, go to fields and relationship, and see if we have that variable level. We have it. Okay, the name is different. It should be level C. Let me replace it. Now see, we are saving. Okay, now we have saved our trigger, scenario 6, and this trigger should fire if we are inserting any records in contact object and the record is having the wave as a lead source. And in that case, it should replace the whatever be the level of the value of this contact's label field. That should be replaced with primary keyword. That should be replaced with primary word. Now let's go to the org, open it, discard and changes. Let me just create a new record. Okay. Let's say testing level 2022. And let's set up the lead source as web. I haven't given any records. I haven't given anything, any input to the label field. See, there are 3 options: primary, tertiary, and secondary. I haven't picked any of these options. Now I'm going to hit save. Now go to the records, go to the details, and check that. Here you go. So label is primary now. So our trigger is working. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.